Hearing others is a necessity for building close relationships, but to be honest, it's one of the weakest skills out there. Hello, friend. My name's Zach, and the stuff of life is deep connections. And the only way this can happen is by really hearing someone else and them really hearing you. The more we know about someone else, the more they know about us. That's where intimacy happens. This video is all about the different things we need to do to make sure someone feels heard. Let's dive in. Number one, proper listening posture. There's 3 ways we listen. And if we don't do one correctly, we're not listening. I'm going to talk about the 2 bad ones first, because I'm kind of good at them. Number 1, listening to hijack. This is where you're waiting for them to take a breath of oxygen to hijack the conversation in another direction, right? So they said something and it sparked you somehow and you're like, oh, I want to talk about this thing, even though that's not what they're talking about. I'm waiting. Okay, let me tell you what happened last Wednesday. Let me tell you that. That is listening to hijack. We can really feel when someone does this. Their eyes kind of glaze over when they're listening to us. And they just take the conversation somewhere else the moment we're done. The second posture is listening to interrupt. So this, you're going to stay on the same subject, but it's similar. You're waiting for them to breathe, to interrupt them for your brilliant thought on what they just said. Both of these are a level of pride at worst, but sometimes it's just not paying attention, or you're just so consumed with something that happened that you just want to talk about it. I'm a verbal processor. I come into a room, I got nothing to say, and then the moment I start, it just goes. I really got to be careful, because those in my life, what can happen is I can suck out all the oxygen in the room by either listening to hijack or listening to interrupt. And I can make excuses. I'm a fast processor. I got a lot going on, ADD mind. Those are just excuses. When I really try, I can do the proper listening posture. I just need to really try. And the proper listening posture is listening to understand. So that's when you're taking your full focus and attention to just understand what they're saying. See, whether I'm recording a video or talking with friends, I'm never 100% saying what I mean. Not on purpose, but because sometimes words don't do justice to feelings in my heart or the thoughts I have. We don't really think about it much, but the amount of thought before words that happen, it's like, if you're a verbal processor like I am, the words come, then the thoughts. And so you're constantly going, I think I said what I meant to say, but let me say more words. Or maybe you're internal and you're so wanting to figure out the right words to say that you start focusing on that. But really, all we need to do in that moment is listen to understand them. And I'm an argumentative guy. I have to remind myself, listening to understand does not mean listening to agree. You could make sure you're listening to understand by simply, every time someone's done, asking them a question or repeat back what they said. These are ways we can make sure we're in that posture. Number 2, listen with your whole body. Look, I am so distractible. I own a restaurant, and my distractibility within the restaurant, very beneficial, because I can see things that's going on all around me. But when it comes to a one-on-one conversation, not so beneficial. And I can get so distracted by, in the room right now, I can hear my dryer going. There's a drip of a faucet over there. Earlier, I had a train going on, and my mind can get distracted by all these things. And what helps me to listen with my whole body is to focus on a certain section. So if you struggle with that, here's a little tip. When you're looking at someone, make sure to look at their eyes and nose and mouth, that part of their face. Otherwise, you could get distracted. Maybe their hair's messed up and that's messing you up. Maybe these other things, but listen with your whole body. Communication is 7% the words we use, 45% the tone of voice, and 48% body language. If you're really listening to someone, you're paying attention to their tone, their body language, and their words. And that can be tiring. Number 3, to really hear them, reflect back in your own words what they said. You don't need to do this all the time, but if someone's sharing something deep, or a hurt, or a pain, or maybe you're unclear on what they're trying to communicate, try reflecting back what you think they said and ask them, so what I hear you saying? And then repeat back to the best of your abilities. A word of caution with this one. And I had someone in my life that would use this, what I hear you saying, and they would change what I had said into what they wanted me to say. They would use it as a manipulation technique. This is not a manipulation technique. You are literally reflecting back their words so that you really hear them. It is so you know for sure. But it has this benefit. When someone really hears you, it is so rare, you will watch the person's shoulders drop when they feel understood. For some people, when I've practiced this with them, they've told me it's the first time they felt understood in their life. That is sad, and it shows the power of this. I don't know if that feels hokey to you to reflect someone's words back. It's not hokey. It's powerful. Because we're buzzing around so much, often we don't listen to understand. Number 4, is there anything else? This is such a powerful tool because we're all kind of like onions. Not that we make others cry, even though onions make me cry. Cut up a bunch of red onions. I dare you. It's like a man competition. If you can't get through it without crying. No, I'm just joking. We are all like onions. We got layers. And whether we're verbal or internal, I really don't think it matters. You could think on something all day long, or I could verbalize all day long. But once someone reflects and then asks me, is there anything else? I might even go, no, and then proceed to tell something else. There's always another layer. We have been so compacted by life, impacted by others. There's relationships all around us. We're complicated. In fact, the Bible says, who can understand the heart? It's deceitfully wicked in all our ways. If you can't understand your own heart, just think about that. And so when you repeat back to someone and you reflect and then you ask them if there's anything else, there's an unburdening that happens. My wife and I were doing this the other day, and I did this exercise with her. It ended up being 12 times there was something else. That wasn't exhausting to me. That wasn't like there was something wrong with her. She was unburdening one layer, and then another, and another. And we're all like this. This can be a great gift of making people feel heard to a level most have never experienced. Number 5, test your assumptions. What's going to happen in this conversation is you're going to have assumptions you're gathering. And instead of holding those in a posture of judgment, you can do something powerful. And that's ask curious questions. Check your assumptions. You could fire back a great question, or sometimes when I don't have a good question to come up with, but I've made an assumption, I ask them more in a statement. Hey, you said this. Do you think that could be this thing over here? What do you think about that? Or for me, this is how I experience that. Is that how you do? These are ways that you're reading the body language and you're asking a non-judgmental, curious question. Is you can help people discover something. So not only are you listening, but you're also discovering together. And there is nothing more powerful in a relationship than hearing someone to you discovering something about them together is something that brings you closer together. These tips on hearing people is really hard to do. Easy concepts that can be difficult to do. And I found the only way I can really hear someone is when I'm connected to God. See, the horizontal, our relationship with others, always rests on the vertical, our relationship with God. And if you're struggling to hear people, or you're just struggling in relationships, oftentimes what we need to go back to is the source. Our relationship with God may have gotten stale. And if you want to increase that vertical relationship, that relationship with God, so that you can love those people in your life better, watch this video right here. I know it'll really help you. Have a great day, and God bless you in your journey.